All right, welcome back. This is going to be the second half of PS8 Tools panel, number 1. So we've gone through using the Move tool, elliptical marquee, rectangular marquee tool. We've also learned how to fill our foreground color and background colors, respectively. And then we reviewed how to select the brush tool, how to make sure nothing's selected when we're painting. Otherwise, it's not going to actually make a mark. And then how to just like paint on top of something, write our signature. So let's continue on with this. The next thing we're going to do is talk to you about how we can mess with things using our selection tools. So if I zoom down, we've got this lovely guy sitting on a bench here. And one of the things that I've set up is like, say like you've got this guy in here, he's against a white background. I know it's pure white, but I want to make it look like he's actually in this whole compositional space. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll hit M for my rectangular marquee tool, and it's preloaded, so that's good to go. Then I'm going to click and drag out my marquee to cover that whole space. Now, if I go and change my foreground color to white and then do Alt Backspace, you're going to notice that it's going to make the guy disappear, makes everything white, but I've lost the image. So that's not good. Control Z. So what I can do is like sometimes you can make a large selection and then you can deselect parts of the image with another tool. If I use the rectangular marquee tool, I can do that. What we're going to show today though is getting your lasso tool, so hotkey L. So I have a selection already made. I'm going to pull out my lasso tool, and one of the kind of neat things that you can do by modifying your tool is if you hold Alt, instead of adding to the selection, holding Alt will actually it will deselect from the selection, or it'll remove pixels from that selection. So this whole image is filled. So what I'm going to do now is just like I'm going to take the lasso tool, which basically is going to act almost like a pencil. You can draw a perimeter around the pixels that you want to modify or the pixels you want to avoid modifying. And you basically just draw until you reconnect to the location that you started from. So I did that. Now, if I take my foreground color and fill it, so that's Alt Backspace to review. Now it actually like fills white into all the spaces that are selected, which is everything except for what I deselected in the center of the image. Again, to do that, all I did was hold Alt and then click and drag a line around the figure, and then I did Alt Backspace to fill it. You can also take your lasso tool and select, I don't know, things within the composition. So this could be a general way to just like select, you know, a part of the picture. And then I can use my generative fill and just type in a dog. So my hope is that the AI will generate a dog sitting on the bench next to this guy. That way he won't look so lonely. So again, using the lasso tool, there we go. That's kind of cute. I don't know. We'll go with this one. So for this one again, fill the background to make it all white by first selecting everything with the rectangular marquee tool and then using the lasso tool and holding Alt to deselect the parts that are outside the image. Fill it all with white so it looks like everything's against a white background, and then you can use your lasso tool to select a section on the bench and have someone sit next to this guy on the bench. Our next little exercise is going to deal with the polygonal lasso tool, which is different from the traditional lasso tool in that the polygonal lasso tool allows you to actually select things in a very geometric or polygonal shape, and then it's just a better way to get like straight edge selections. So I'm going to show this. We're going to select these windows in the house, and for this demo I'm just going to select I don't know, 3 of the windows, but you can go ahead and do all the windows, all the doors. And then we're going to use the clone stamp to actually make it look like there's clouds inside of the house. So I'm going to use Alt to scroll forward. I'm going to click and hold on the lasso tool to get the polygonal lasso tool. That's the second one preloaded in the tools panel. And then what I'm going to do is just select inside the window space. So I'm going to go inside the frame and click once in the top right corner. Click once in the top left. Go down to the bottom left, bottom right. And then as I come back up to the top, you're going to notice the polygonal lasso tool will create a little O, very similar to like the pen tool in Illustrator. And that O indicates that you're actually closing the selection. So I click again. You can see the marquee is now around that selection. Now if I zoom out, holding Alt and scrolling back, I can take my clone stamp tool, which is kind of fun. Make sure that I have layer 10 selected, so I'm going to click on that. And then if I hold Alt, it's going to then command me to sample part of the image that I can then clone stamp into the house. So I'm going to select part of the clouds, maybe like right about here. And now, because I have this area selected, if I click and start clicking around, it's going to fill in that selection with whatever I'm cloning over there. Again, to like sample that, I can also click here, bring it over. The clone stamp tool will just like kind of, you end up copying wherever the location is to the destination that you click on. To deselect, Control D. Now I've got clouds that look like they're going through the house right there. Again, go here, hit L for my lasso, polygonal lasso tool. Click the inside space of this window. Zoom out. My clone stamp is hotkey S. Again, I can hold Alt, click another part of the sky. If you want to make it look like the clouds actually connect, maybe you click in a different part and make it arrange in similar ways. So I can click like this. That way it kind of creates this look as if like the contour of the clouds are going through the house. Let's hit Control D to deselect. I'm going to move on to this next window here. Hit L to get my polygonal lasso tool. Again, I want to just talk about the importance of learning your hotkeys so you don't have to go hunting in your tools panel. I've closed the selection. I'll hit S to get my clone stamp tool. And again, like I might consider like where the clouds are coming down here and maybe connecting. So I probably want to find something that's like on the downward slope of clouds. So maybe I can do this little section up here. So I'll hold Alt to make a selection. And I'll come in here, click, 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 fill out that, Control D. And now I've got this kind of interesting illusion where like I'm looking through the house to these clouds that are clone stamped in that space. All right, so polygonal lasso tool and the clone stamp. The last of the lasso tools is the magnetic. So if I click and hold on my lasso tool and go to the bottom of the list, it's magnetic lasso tool. This one's kind of neat in that when you want to make a selection and you don't want to like click around the contours very carefully, you can use the magnetic lasso tool to do this. So in this case, we're gonna start with a starting point in the middle of this young woman's head. So I'll click once, and you'll notice like I can continue to like draw, like put my mouse around the shape, and there's a little bit of like the application is trying to figure out like where the edge is. So it's almost like edge detection. Got a little bit of a weird spot there. We can clean that up later. So this kind of speeds up the polygonal lasso tool in that it helps to just like find the edges. Again, notice I'm zoomed in. A lot of you guys I see like when you're making selections, you're kind of like looking at it from far away. So I really encourage, like, zoom in, get close to this, so you can actually see what you're doing. Again, as I go around, I'm kind of letting it find edges, but then I'm clicking probably like, I don't know, once or twice every couple seconds. Click, 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 click. Moving on up. Some of these, like the AI is actually plotting, using my spacebar to continue to move along. Again, it's a much faster way than taking your polygonal lasso tool and just trying to click your way around this whole object. Lots of new selection tools within Photoshop. These are just some of the oldies. Again, to close the selection, you're going to bring the starting point back to, or the ending point back to the starting point and click once. It'll create a little O, so you click, and then you can actually see the selection is now loaded. Now the area where like we might have selected a little bit off, we can go back to our polygonal lasso tool, and if I hold Alt, it'll make the tool negative, and I can click around that piece I want to remove. Again, holding Alt, and that will actually break it away from the selection. So I've got my selection made. Now we're going to actually do an Alt click drag to make a copy of this. And in order to do that, we need to switch our tools to the Move tool. So V, which is the north, south, east, west arrows. And you can see there's a cut symbol indicator right now. So if I click and drag, it's going to actually remove those pixels from that location, which is not something I want to do. So Control Z. If I hold Alt whilst in the Move tool, I can now click and drag. So now like I have a double of this young woman standing against the wall. And then if I do Control D, she's now twice in that same image, which is kind of fun. Lost some of the shadows, so if I made a selection to gather all of the shadows, then it would create that illusion pretty close, as if she was like twice in the same image. So magnetic lasso tool, again, kind of helps you out with finding edges. And then we can use the Move tool to actually do an Alt click drag, very similar to like in Illustrator when we make copies. Last tool is a review of the Remove tool. So Remove tool is hotkey J. J also will select the heal brush and spot healing. So if it ends up loading one of the other tools, then I would say like probably want to go and select that one in the tools panel specifically. The Remove tool is, again, it's a brush related to the healing tools that uses AI to actually like repaint. It's kind of neat though in that it actually does it pretty quickly. So what I want you to do for this little example is change your brush size. So using your tabs, or not your tabs, but your brackets, bracket right, bracket left, to make your brushes bigger or smaller. And then I want you to just go through and just remove all the apples from the apple tree. So you're going through here and you're picking the apples. So we're digitally picking apples from the apple tree. And if like one of the removes that you do ends up kind of creating an illusion that doesn't really make sense, then try to fix it by undoing it and reattempting that remove. Again, change your brush diameter to accommodate the apple size that you're removing. I was specific about getting this image so that you would be encouraged to do this. If you click and drag, it might do a pretty good job, but I imagine it's going to be replacing more of the image, which may make it look a little strange. So there we go. So that's going to conclude our second half here of going through the rectangular marquee tool using the lasso, the 3 lasso tools, the clone tool, learning how to alt click drag with the Move tool, and then also to just refresh using the Remove tool. All right, guys, that's all I got.